As a mangaka at Type Moon Chapter 181, Lucky Draw. Sigh. Rubbing his head, Kazuya stood up. It's over. What a terrible experience. Unlike before, this time he got a stand that many people were familiar with, and there was a very familiar Abdul standing beside him from the beginning. And his stand was quite weak, which means he had to rely on others' stand power to accomplish anything, making it incredibly difficult. This was still Dio sending stand messengers all over the room, and he found the room in Cairo in less than 3 hours. The stand messengers outside didn't have time to come back. Moreover, he had priority information from this side. Otherwise, it would have been still quite bad. But, actually, in the original story, the journey went very smoothly. Dio wiped out all the stand messengers along the way, making things much easier later on. But, if he hadn't defeated any on the way and had to face all the stand messengers when dealing with Dio, that would have been the worst. Just one was already bad enough, and there were so many. But, at least it's over. Let's see what manga we can draw this time. As for abilities, he didn't have much expectation. Without any surprises, the stand ability he got was likely to be Death 13. Just like before, let's start by drawing a manga. The manga still consisted of the usual 10 slots. Magical Girl Nanoa, Naruto, Devil May Cry, Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, Death Note, Hunter x Hunter, Full Metal Alchemist, Hellsing, Hellgirl. Oh, so there's Magical Girl Nanoa added. Kazuya took a look, and after that, the roulette, following his will, began to spin. It stopped abruptly when he couldn't keep up with the speed in front of him. He didn't care too much. Because in his view, each one was great, each one could become a classic, so any of them was fine. So, the roulette stopped in the process with an abrupt break, landing on a blood-red slot. Hellsing. Kazuya nodded in satisfaction. This one is good. Hellsing, one of his favorite anime. He fell in love with the exquisite performance in the OVA. He watched the TV version once, but he couldn't continue after just one episode, because he had already watched the super high-quality OVA before. Each episode often lasted about an hour, with a total of 10 episodes. Progressing at a rate of 1 or 2 episodes at a time, it took him a considerable amount of time to meticulously craft it like an art piece. After that successfully, he perfectly presented Hellsing. There wasn't an overly complicated plot throughout. Simply put, it was a story about the rebellion against the Britannian Empire. The remnants of the German army, 1,000 people strong, all vampires, formed a legion called the Last Battalion. Led by their leader, a chubby major, they launched a surprise attack on London, turning it into ruins. The other 2 forces were the Vatican's legion, numbering in the thousands, the Ninth Crusade. But the most famous one among them wasn't from any of these factions, it was the one who betrayed the 13th section, the Anderson Angel. The man who entered hell shouting, "Amen." Facing the countless dead, he went alone to meet them. And finally, the force native to Britain, the Hellsing organization. And their ace was named Alucard, initially the strongest vampire. Alucard, initially the strongest vampire. Lived for hundreds of years, known as the vampire Dracula. Dracula, Alucard. When speaking quickly, you could also call him Dracula, but he preferred to be called Alucard. He was truly immortal, an undying monster. His body contained millions of souls. Each death reduced 1 soul. When he started drinking blood again, the souls would continuously increase. His actual strength didn't seem that strong, but this immortality made him almost overwhelmingly powerful. And he could also use the dead for himself. Those he killed, those he sucked blood from, all became members of his undead army, able to display their previous strength. His ultimate move was both his strongest and weakest when activated. Ultimate move Dead River. When activated, all the souls he had consumed would be released, becoming his underlings to fight for him. But at this point, he would only have 1 life left. So it was both the strongest and the weakest. This battle could be said to be a gathering to kill Alucard, gathering an army. In the end, they successfully put Alucard to sleep for decades. When he woke up again, it was like Schrödinger's cat, there and nowhere. The story was simple, but the entire animation was filled with aesthetic violence. Passionate baddies, a simple story, no righteous side among the 3 factions. All 3 were fighting their respective enemies. Simple but delicate character portrayals. Vampire Alucard, Count Dracula, Police Girl Scrass, Mercenary Pip Bernadotte, Anderson Angel, Butler, Major, Captain Wolfman. Each person had their unique charm. There was no so-called justice. Most of the people inside seemed a bit crazy to normal people. Many were war maniacs, but each had their unique charm. Well, let's start drawing this when we come back from this London trip. Kazuya nodded in satisfaction. He wanted to delve into that dream and see the story there. So, the last thing left is the draw for stand abilities. As usual, there were 10 abilities plus items, and the Red Stone of Asia was also among them. But I guess I won't be able to draw it. If that's the case, it means that things add inside can indeed appear. Looking forward to the conclusion of part 4. This time, the 10 things to draw were Stand Star Platinum, Stand the World, Stand Autumn, Stand Death 13, Red Stone of Asia, Submarine, Stand Purple Haze, Stand Magician's Red, Stand Yellow Temperance, Stand Lovers. Let's begin, Kazuya casually said. After all, this time it would probably be Death 13, but he kind of wanted to get the Red Stone of Asia or something like Star Platinum. Stop. The next moment he widened his eyes. It's not Death 13? 182, London? Not Death 13, but Autumn? Kazuya looked in surprise at the stand he had obtained. Autumn. This was the stand ability possessed by Terence T. D'Arby. It had 2 abilities. O and C, the power to extract a person's soul. Afterward, it could be stored, and Terence T. D'Arby's preference was to place them in dolls. His brother, on the other hand, turned the souls into coins. This could be considered a shared ability between the two. However, this ability had conditions. It would only activate during activities such as gambling or games, and the opponent had to wager their soul. If they failed in the subsequent game, experiencing defeat and frustration, that's when he would snatch their soul. Conversely, if the person possessing this stand ability felt a sense of failure, the soul would directly return to the owner's body. But without engaging in such rituals, it could still activate to some extent. Of course, the prerequisite was to make the person feel a sense of failure, and the chance to weaken the energy of the soul was possible. Gambling and games were the quickest ways. Additionally, Terence T. D'Arby's stand had another ability, one that intrigued Kazuya even more: mind reading. Of course, not reading everything. It could only detect yes or no, revealing a significant amount of information by simply answering with yes or no to certain questions. How fortunate! Kazuya stood up with excitement. To think I got such abilities before heading to London. Inside the Mystic Eye Collection train, he wasn't surprised by anything he discovered. But getting the ability to read minds and extract souls before actually arriving there made things even more convenient for him. Not only that, but it would be the same in his daily life afterward. With more ways to utilize these abilities, getting them was truly fantastic. In a sense, this was a more practical ability than Death 13. However, a problem arose. This meant that what his heroic self obtained would not necessarily be what he would receive. The choices made in the parallel world, his choices in the parallel world were different. Even the items obtained through the lottery draw might differ. The abilities his heroic self possessed might not be present in reality. Whether this was good or bad news, he couldn't be sure. England, London, an old station in the outskirts. Kazuya arrived at this location on June 6. The numbers of a double 6, is there any significance? Looking at the surrounding buildings, Kazuya thought to himself. According to his investigation, this station ceased operation in 1950, and there was a "no entry" sign in front, with the entrance blocked. But, yes, this was the location he had investigated. He took a magical needle from the inner pocket of his coat, a Tasaka Ren model. This item wasn't expensive. It could be bought for a few tens of thousands of yen. Since he couldn't use magecraft, he experimented by sensing his own small source, attempting to refine magecraft. But unfortunately, his own ripples were too strong. Combined with his poor magecraft aptitude, even the meager amount of small source energy he managed to refine was absorbed by the ripple's small source energy. Among those he knew who used ripples, he was the only one with this situation. Others like Emiya Kiritsugu didn't have it, but their ripples were weak. Even if their small source energy was good, their ripples were weak, resulting in a considerable increase in the amount of magecraft. According to Emiya Kiritsugu's feelings, Ripple could slowly increase small source effectiveness when combined with both ripples. Magecraft and ripples were essentially two sides of the same coin in this world, with minimal differences in expression. Therefore, a person with strong ripples would have weak magecraft. A person with strong magecraft would have weak ripples. So, practicing both ripples and magecraft at the same time was the most effective. Representative examples were Emiya Shuru, no, Emiya Mumi, and Ilyasville. Although Ilyasville had a high magecraft aptitude, she had not refined magecraft for a long time because it was not advantageous for her small source. Emiya Kiritsugu and others had not taken her out. She would have taken the difficult path of the Holy Grail War, and at that time, even if she didn't want to, she would have had to refine magecraft. Now, ripples could extend her lifespan. Like Emiya Mumi, her ripple and magecraft strengths were equivalent. And she could convert all ripples into magecraft, or rather, temporarily manifest all small source in a certain form. But Kazuya's gluttonous Beelzebub had caused his small source, that is, his lifespan energy, to increase too much. His ripples were too powerful, and he didn't even have the capital to transform into magecraft. However, this time might be different. The magic circuits of the mystic eye were independent. At that time, he might be able to let his small source manifest in another form. For now, he could buy a little more that didn't require magecraft or items that could be charged using someone else's magecraft. Such items existed, but they weren't cheap. Ah, I see, so it's like this. It seems this place has already been set up with a barrier. Watching the chaotic magical needle in his hand, Kazuya nodded and put it away. This type of barrier had no effect on him. While his small source energy couldn't be expressed in the form of magecraft, the powerful small source energy had already rendered some magecraft ineffective against him. Comparing it to the status panel, he estimated that he should have a level of ED in terms of resistance to magecraft. This kind of barrier was useless against him. It seems there's no one. Still 2 days. Kazuya remembered today's date. He came early, just getting off the plane, opening a room at the hotel to leave his luggage, and then rushing over. After confirming the location, he walked towards the exit. To the hotel. Oh, my God, that's fantastic. The driver sighed and said, I've been stuck here, and I bet you are too, right? Ah, yes. It's indeed not a pleasant place. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. 183. Mystic Eye Collection Train June 6, 1989. A light rain fell in London. In front of the abandoned train station, Kazuya once again arrived at the location. Unlike before, this time, he could feel a bit of human presence. Before long, he reached the platform, where a few figures were standing in pairs. It seems like I didn't come to the wrong place. Strolling through the dense fog, even though it was raining outside, the feeling inside was not vivid. The fog blocked the view, making it impossible to see the faces of those standing there. It gave a vague sensation, as if being in a dream. At that moment, 2 people approached. It's rare for someone to come alone. I was wondering who it could be. But looking closely, you're Mr. Kurokawa Kazuya, aren't you? A silver-haired woman walked in front, followed by a black-haired girl. One white, one black. A stark contrast. It added a touch of dreamlike charm to the current scene. Oh, you recognize me? So, who are you two? Friends? Enemies? Kazuya smiled and said casually, as if casually inquiring, but his eyes glanced, seeing the souls of the 2 in front of him. Their souls kept saying, no, meaning, neither friends nor enemies. In any case, now, even if they knew who he was, there was no immediate intention to harm him. Ah, yes, the famous mangaka, Kurokawa Kazuya. Whether in that world or this world, many people know you. You may not know, but there are many fans of yours in the clock tower now. If you could come for a visit, you would surely be warmly welcomed. The silver-haired woman, named Melvis Clara, spoke with a gentle smile. Spare me, the clock tower is too dangerous for someone like me. I haven't gone there yet. Now, Melvis Clara said, smiling slightly, oh, right, I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Melvis Clara, from the clock tower's Department of Policies. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. It's an honor. I didn't expect to meet someone from the Department of Policies. So, excuse my rudeness, but, were you joking just now, being from the Department of Policies and all? Of course, just as I said, that wasn't a joke. Melvis of the clock tower said, moving aside a bit, I haven't introduced her yet. Like you, she comes from the same country, a newcomer to the Department of Policies this year. I brought her out to meet you. Come, Hishiri, introduce yourself. I know. The girl with jet black hair, wearing a pair of glasses that likely concealed mystic eyes, revealed a polite smile. She wore a black base garment with elegant fluttering sleeves, adorned with vibrant flowers, instantly revealing her country of origin. Nice to meet you, Mr. Kurakawa. Like you, I come from Japan and am currently a student at the Clock Tower's Department of Policies. You can call me Hishiri Adashino. Kazuya's pupils contracted slightly, but he immediately closed his eyes, squinting and smiling. Is that so? Your clothes are quite beautiful and suit you well. But, is it okay to come over like this, when it's rumored to be dangerous here? He learned a lesson from his previous visit to London, where slight changes in his facial features made Emiya Kiritsugu notice something. To want to control the facial muscles oneself, it's possible, but, wanting to control even one's own eyes is indeed impossible. Eyes won't deceive people. This statement is true. Eyes are the windows to the soul, any emotions will be reflected there first. For ordinary people, it might be difficult to perceive these through changes in the pupils, but for magus, it's different. They have delved deeply into this aspect. After all, in magecraft, eyes are special, which is why there are many mystic eyes. So, in the moment of feeling shocked, he closed his eyes. It's a common method, squinting and smiling, to make it more challenging to observe by minimizing the size of the pupils. It's okay. Melvis smiled and said, in the history of the Mystic Eye Collection train, there have indeed been cases of guests dying for various reasons, but, most of them are people with mystic eyes. And, Hishiri and I don't have such high-level mystic eyes that would attract attention. So, rest assured. But, Mr. Kurakawa, you should be careful. There are quite a few people eyeing your eyes. Melvis smiled, and she did not identify whether Kazuya's eyes had mystic eye abilities. Or rather, people with such abilities are quite rare. Now, most people among those present in this Mystic Eye Collection train don't possess this kind of ability. Or, now, seeing him, confirming his identity, they probably think he's here to sell his mystic eyes. Kazuya has already noticed that someone is making a phone call, probably contacting someone. In this way, just in case there's an auction, they won't be short of money. Apart from that, there's probably Samkon who has the intention of taking action against him directly. Rather than a large sum of money, it's better to just snatch it, although they can't perform mystic eye removal and transplantation, but, cutting off the head is still an option. That does sound dangerous. Kazuya smiled and said, well, I don't actually have high-level mystic eyes, or rather, I don't have any mystic eyes at all. I came to this Mystic Eye Collection train this time for, yes, to purchase a mystic eye. Oh, Melvis seemed a bit surprised and opened her mouth slightly. I see. I thought, it was Wizard Marshall showing favoritism towards you. Honestly, compared to someone with a high-level mystic eye like you, it does make people somewhat uneasy. Kazuya smiled and didn't say much. The soul of the person in front of him has already exposed everything. The fog gradually became thicker. London has long been known for its fog, but that was smog produced by industrial waste. This time was different. Although it blocked the view, there was no dust or unpleasant smell. Instead, it was pure white. As if endless waves of white were rolling in. Then came the sound of a steam whistle. The first to appear was the train head, emitting smoke, and later, the deep gray train body was revealed. Yes, the Mystic Eye Collection train has arrived. 184 Dead Apostle. The train slowly came to a stop, and the doors opened automatically. People scattered outside, one by one, walked in. The number was not large, counting all of them, including Kazuya, it wasn't more than 10. It seems we can go in now, Kazuya said, looking at the umbrella in his hand. It looks like there's nothing special about it in the rain. Well, let's go in first. Ah. Kazuya nodded and looked around. He glanced at the magical power meter in his arms, he had already turned it off. Otherwise, in front of such a strong magical power source, it might explode. Can feel it. Kazuya could feel it, a sensation coming from that train. It seemed like countless things were mixed together, creating a chaotic feeling, much stronger than his own life energy. No, tens of times stronger. This thing was dangerous. Even more so than the aura Dio emitted with his time-stopping ability and the breath of the ultimate life form Cars, who had just transformed. The back of his shirt was slightly damp. He touched his black gloves on his right hand, feeling a bit more at ease. This thing was also valuable. Just now, the peoples from the Department of Policies didn't notice anything at all. Moreover, this thing had excellent ripple conductivity. It was quite good, better than any material he had seen so far in terms of ripple conductivity, even surpassing that appeared in Part 2 of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. If this thing had perfect ripple conductivity, this thing was about 100% suitable. Not only did it have top-notch ripple conductivity, but it also had a certain degree of amplification effect. And it had strong defense capabilities. For example, a regular handgun, even firing at this glove at point-blank range, wouldn't cause any damage. However, when it was filled inside with the prosthetic arm made by Tuko Aozuki, similar to a normal human hand, it was a bit different. The hand, struck by the bullet, slightly bled, and the bones were slightly damaged. Seeing all this, he even thought that this world might have something similar to the Red Stone of Agi. Now he was fully armed. Whether facing the Mystic Eye Collection train or other magus, he had corresponding confidence. Finish everything in one go here, so that he could avoid some troubles later. Just relying on the information from the jewel guy was not enough. Many magus were suspicious, and if during this process, the news spread that Kurikawa Kazuya has purchased a Mystic Eye and now has the Mystic EYC, it would directly interrupt the thoughts of those who wanted to do something later. Although the Mystic Eye Collection train was only a rumor circulating in the upper echelons of the mysterious world, it was already enough. High-level magus gave up their thoughts, and low-level ones did not have the courage. They walked into the Mystic Eye Collection train, and a refreshing scent filled the air. On the tables in the carriages were various fruits, and some people who seemed to have boarded the train before them. Probably those who boarded at the previous station. There wasn't just one station. Oh, you must be Kurikawa Kazuya. As soon as they entered the car, Kazuya heard a loud shout. For a moment, everyone looked over. Several people were too focused before and didn't hear the conversation between his and the peoples from the Department of Policies. However, the expressions of several people in the train changed. It seemed like they discovered something was wrong and turned their gaze over. Dead Apostle. At this moment, a sturdy-faced man who boarded the train together with Kazuya spoke. What? I thought it was someone else. The dead apostle who spoke just now, a man, sat down, took a bite of an apple, and cracked a smile. Isn't this a person from the Holy Church? The atmosphere inside the train became tense. Dead Apostle, Mages Association, Department of Policies, Holy Church, and Kurikawa Kazuya. In this small carriage, the focus of the entire mysterious world gathered. The atmosphere unknowingly became tense. Kazuya could clearly sense it. A blatant killing intent permeated the carriage. The internal ripple energy began to gather, maintaining the ripple breath. He didn't let others feel anything wrong. However, he had already prepared for the battle. The ripple could be activated at any time. With one hand, his left hand also quietly pulled the coat to one side. Inside, it was already loaded with a origin bullet gun. However, silently, this kind of atmosphere disappeared. At some point, a thin man appeared in the carriage. Kazuya recognized him. He was the man he had seen beside the woman named Leandra. However, at that time, he didn't find anything different about him, but now, he could sense it. This man had a different aura. Thank you for your cooperation. This train will depart on time tonight, he said, and behind him, the door closed. Accompanied by the whistle, the steam-operated train started. I am the conductor of this train, Rodan. I apologize for disturbing you at such a pleasant time. Haha, which I did you see us having a pleasant conversation here? The dead apostle laughed. All two eyes. Rodan continued to smile, and the dead apostle seemed to sense something, turning his head slightly, his gaze seeming to pass through the crowd, looking at something further, behind. Kazuya also turned his head slightly, but he didn't see anything. Well, I know, rest assured, after all, this is the senior's toy, right? I won't cause trouble, but your business scope is really wide. Even people from the Holy Church are here. Oh, by the way, that person named Kurikawa Kazuya, is he the legendary rainbow rank Mystic Eye? Will it appear today? No, let me disappoint you. He is the buyer, not the seller. Ah, I see. The dead apostle squinted at Kazuya. Just as I said, there is no magical power fluctuation at all. Really, a waste of anticipation. Kazuya also smiled. By the way, are you a dead apostle? Ah, what's the matter? No, nothing, just a little curious about your existence, especially the appearance of dead apostle, drawing it should sell well. What did you just say? The dead apostle's face sank slightly, and his tone was full of killing intent. Can't your cars hear? Do you need me to say it again? 185 Dead apostle. Ha ha ha. Yes, yes, you said it right. If I die, it must be very valuable, isn't it? But unfortunately, the chance is, you simply can't see it. Given the short life of humans, how could you possibly witness my death? The dead apostle's face darkened as he spoke. What's wrong with you again? Even if it's not the mystic eye that holds the grudge, there's still something wrong. Please be quiet, Rodan interrupted the dead apostle, who seemed eager to say something more. Please, everyone, take your seats. We will now introduce the locations of your respective rooms. If there's anything, we can discuss it later. He wasn't angry. Still, his tone was filled with an undeniable sense of command. Among these people, many were powerful individuals, but Rodan didn't seem to care. This situation had occurred before in the history of the appearance of the Mystic Eye Collection train. As for how to deal with the current situation, Kazuya had already demonstrated it. That is, strike back with confidence. Now, no one knew the specific strengths of the others, and at a time like this, if someone hesitated just because he was the head of the dead apostles, the result might be ending up as a corpse on this Mystic Eye Collection train. Only by showing no fear, and even going a step further. By not putting this person in his eyes, would make others feel apprehensive, and they wouldn't dare to act recklessly. The Mystic Eye Collection train was no exception. Even though Rodan's words sounded like inquiries, his tone was irrefutable. If anyone dared to say a no, perhaps it would be leaving their head, their body thrown outside. Thank you for your cooperation, Rodan nodded and smiled. This train will circle around the Misty Country for a week and then return to London in 4 days and 3 nights. During this time, please enjoy the demonstration of the Mystic Eyes on display and patiently wait for the auction on the 3rd day. The winning bids for the Mystic Eyes can be immediately transplanted for you or kept under your own care. Moreover, the transplantation won't take much of your time, so please rest assured. As for those who wish to sell their Mystic Eyes, please come to our working area the day after tomorrow before dusk on the 3rd day and explain your needs to me, Rodan. Then, at this moment, another familiar figure appeared beside Rodan, slightly bowed, and said, I am Leandra, and I have the honor of serving as the host for the auction. This familiar figure with belts wrapped around the eyes was undoubtedly the woman with whom Kazuya had an encounter in the Jojo-themed amusement park. Well, the room is not bad. Kazuya put the gift box in his hand aside. Inside, there weren't many clothes, mostly mystic code. Although he couldn't use magecraft, he had purchased many tools, all used for defense against various magecraft attacks. Especially curses. For attacks, he had origin bullets and ripple. But for non-offensive situations, there were still curses. However, even weak attacks needed these things for defense. Opening the suitcase, he took out the items inside, arranged a small-scale barrier in the train carriage, and placed 3 gems near the window. Jewel magecraft, this thing was not exclusive to the Tasaka family. As a source of magical energy, he purchased a batch of gems through Waver Velvet at the clock tower. All of them were filled with magical energy, and their prices ranged in tens of millions of yen, including the value of the gems and the magical energy. As for the cost of using jewel magecraft, in Fate Stay Night, Rin Tasaka and Shuru Emiya had a conversation about this. Throwing away a gem after using it was around 100,000 yen, more advanced ones required 1 million, or even 10 million. But, he guessed Rin Tasaka didn't have many gems worth over 10 million yen. By the time Rin Tasaka became the head of the Tasaka family, their assets had already been squandered by a certain someone who had no idea how to manage them. That should be enough. From a distance, various curses and tricks should be able to withstand them to some extent. At least it could give him an early warning. Give himself some defense. And, he would definitely be tested by others later. Whether it's the clock tower, the holy church, or the dead apostle and other magus. If he killed them, he killed them. Not everyone is like El Meloy too, investigating who the murderer is, or even if it is investigated, the clock tower won't care. In the world of magus, struggles and battles over various ideas and interests were simple things. Ordinary laws couldn't bind these people. They existed in the shadows outside the law. After finishing up, he walked out of the room and headed towards the adjacent carriage. On the dining car's table, there were still fresh fruits, as if they had just been placed there. The middle-aged man was sitting there, reading a book, and seemed to sense something, turning his head to look at the approaching person. Kurokawa Kazuya, right? Yes, I am Kurokawa Kazuya. Kazuya nodded, looked around for an empty seat, and decided to sit across from him. Hello, are you from the Holy Church, judging by your attire? Yes. Mr. Kurokawa is indeed very knowledgeable about our Holy Church. The man closed the book and said, and, what I'm most curious about is whether you really obtained the information from Mr. Jewel, or did you see it yourself? But, all of this will be revealed on this train. Ah, that's right. After all, if I really exchange for a mystic eyes, this kind of thing can be seen right away. Kazuya smiled. By the way, sir, I still don't know your name. I am Neil Eddington, that's my name. The man said, like the description of the man Kirei Kotomine in your manga, I am a representative of the Holy Church. I'm surprised. Kazuya didn't conceal his surprise at all and said directly, I didn't expect it to be a representative of the Holy Church, so why did someone like you come here? Is it also for the mystic eyes? No. I have only one goal from start to finish, and that is that man, Colin Kidd, the dead apostle. My mission is to kill him. Kill me. You really dare to say that? 186 Department of Policies. Kill me. You really dare to say that? With such a voice, the dead apostle approached. The dead apostle was dressed in a white suit, and all his teeth were sharp like a shark's. He had purple hair, and there was a strange pattern on his face. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't a tattoo but a slowly moving mark. Blood-red eyes emitted a chilling murderous intent. However, the two people in front of him remained unfazed. Don't forget how you got on this train. The priest turned his head slightly and said, you ran here, didn't you? You. The dead apostle's face turned ugly. It's okay. In this train, he doesn't dare to make a move. The priest didn't look at him and continued talking to Kazuya. I will end his life before he causes trouble and gets thrown out. Kazuya watched this scene with interest and gained some information from their conversation. For example, the stations of the Mystic Eye Collection train were not limited to just one. When this dead apostle was being chased in another location, he ran to a station and happened to have an invitation in his hand, so he entered. Later, Neil Eddington, the priest responsible for pursuing him, obtained the invitation from another magus in London, replaced a magus, and followed Kazuya to the current station. They blocked Colin Kidd, who was about to escape at that time. The goal was to kill this dead apostle, Colin Kidd. That was his mission. However, even though he was from the Holy Church and dead apostles were sworn enemies, it was better not to make a move here. Although the Mystic Eye Collection train had offended many people, it had helped more, and compared to the enemies it made, the ones it helped were much more influential. Even within the Holy Church, many people had received assistance, and behind the Mystic Eye Collection train stood a high-ranking dead apostle. Although Colin Kidd was powerful, he was nothing in front of the true high-ranking dead apostle. Neil Eddington was the same. Although there were rumors that the dead apostle had given up on the Mystic Eye Collection train, there was concrete evidence confirming this. Therefore, neither the priest nor the dead apostle dared to make a move here. Even though they wouldn't be killed if they made a move, they would definitely be thrown out. If the dead apostle was thrown out, the priest would undoubtedly catch up. If the priest were thrown out, the dead apostle could use this opportunity to escape. So, neither of them could make a move. Whoever made a move first would give the other an opportunity. However, all of this had a premise: if they made a move on the surface. If they made a move secretly and gave the Mystic Eye Collection train a way out, saying, I didn't know, so I don't care. Regardless of who was killed and why, it would have nothing to do with them. After chatting for a while, Kazuya walked towards their rooms. The rooms here were spacious, with only 2 or 3 rooms in each carriage. Even if several people lived in them, it wouldn't be a problem. But in Kazuya's case, he was the only one in his room, making it look even more spacious. However, someone was already waiting at his door. Do you have something to discuss with me, Miss Clara? Kazuya looked at the silver-haired woman standing at his door. Yes, there is something. The silver-haired woman smiled and said, I, on behalf of the clock tower, extend an invitation to you. How about joining the clock tower and becoming one of us? Invitation, for me. Kazuya squinted slightly. Is it your idea, or the clock tower's, or perhaps the idea of the queen behind you? You know a lot, Mavis exclaimed. Indeed, I reported your situation to Lady Bartholomew and her instructions were, to bring you over. How about it? The person invited by Lady Bartholomew herself is a rare occurrence in the entire history of the clock tower. Come in, and let's talk in detail. Kazuya opened the door and said. He pondered the advantages and disadvantages of joining the clock tower. Joining the Department of Policies, especially if Bartholomew was the one inviting him, held significant weight. It was clear that her words were more valuable than even Lord Elmeloy too. Significant weight. It was clear that her words were more valuable than even Lord Elmeloy too. Although Kazuya knew a lot about the clock tower, he was also aware that joining the Mages Association had its own risks. Lady admires you a lot, whether it's for your manga or your abilities. So, if I join the Mages Association, what do I need to give in return? Kazuya asked. No, you don't need to give anything. Mavis smiled, you just need to be like an ordinary magus, willing to stay in the clock tower, or go elsewhere. The clock tower only needs your name. Nothing at all. Kazuya had some doubts. Isn't this some kind of trap? No, it's not a trap. Kazuya's pupils contracted slightly. Everything she said seemed to be true. His stand, Autumn, had been watching her. But, how did she manage to avoid detection? Could it be a trap that even the person in front of him didn't know about? Could it be, it was just a casual remark from someone in the clock tower? Kazuya suddenly asked. 187 Bartholomew. Everyone makes mistakes. For example, arrogance. Life being too smooth often leads to this, thinking one is invincible, believing in their strength. Kazuya felt that he had committed such a mistake. Being an heroic spirit, having the counter-force to assist him, having met Merlin, received support from Zelrech, cooperated with Emiya Kiritsugu for his subordinates, established a good relationship to Tuko Aozuki and even left long-term contact with her. Now, even Bartholomew personally invited him to join the clock tower. Adding to that, his manga became a massive hit, receiving acclaim worldwide. And after entering the Mystic Eye Collection train, everyone's attention was on him, making him feel like the center of the stage. He involuntarily developed a sense of, I am important. In his view, most people would develop such feelings. No, it was more like, those who didn't feel this way were abnormal. So, he thought that Bartholomew must have some ulterior motive for inviting him. Why else would she invite him? However, during the conversation with the silver-haired woman in front of him, he suddenly realized this, so he asked, could it be, that person in the clock tower just said it casually? Yes, 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 yes. Then he saw it. The soul of the silver-haired woman in front of him was saying, yes. In other words, what he said earlier was true. No, how is that possible? Lady Bartholomew did explicitly convey this information to me. Mavis smiled and said, perhaps it's just a formality. Kazuya pretended to joke. In reality, he saw it. Yes, 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 yes. This person was indeed just being polite. In my opinion, it's just something that person mentioned casually. As for whether I join or not, she actually don't care at all, right? While saying this, Kazuya smiled and stood up. Yes, 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 yes. Mavis' soul said so. However, what came out of her mouth was a different set of words. No, you are underestimating yourself too much. You have the capital to make Lady Bartholomew personally speak for you. Kazuya sighed slightly in his heart, he really had overestimated himself. In fact, Bartholomew hadn't even looked at him directly. She only heard that he was interesting and casually said, try inviting him over, or something like that. No, it was quite likely. All right. Kazuya smiled and gave a slight bow. After all, if Lady Bartholomew has spoken, no matter what, I can't refuse, can I? Mavis was very satisfied with Kazuya's attitude and nodded. Well, in that case, since we are currently in London, when the Mystic Eye Collection train arrives at its destination this time, you can come with me to the clock tower. She was very satisfied with Kazuya's attitude. For someone like Lady Bartholomew, this level of respect was appropriate. I understand. Kazuya smiled. If Lady Bartholomew had really attached great importance to him, he wouldn't have joined the Mages Association. Because that would mean attracting the attention of big shots. But, it wasn't like that. It meant that they didn't care about him. Joining in only offered convenience to him. He comforted himself in his heart and then continued to eat. There were only a few days left anyway, so he could endure it a little longer. Early the next morning, Kazuya woke up from his sleep. He hadn't entered his familiar dream world last night. After all, this place couldn't be considered safe, and there was the possibility of unexpected events occurring, so it was better to be cautious. Be prepared for battle at any time. Casually walking to the window, he removed a damaged jewel from there and replaced it with a new one. The jewel that had been shattered was already empty inside. It's not that his magical power had been exhausted overnight, but as he expected, someone attacked this compartment last night. Attacked the room he was in. But it was done discreetly. Looking at the dim aura on the shattered jewel, he naturally understood what it was: a curse. Originally, when the jewel broke last night, he could have taken it off immediately. However, in order to expose the magus who dared to curse him and capture that magus, he gave him a chance. A chance to feel a sense of accomplishment. But, it seemed that they only took action once last night. It was unexpected that they didn't attack a second time. If it was like this, he couldn't follow the curse to find them. After all, he was an outsider in the end. After freshening up, Kazuya walked to the dining car next to him. At this time, most people were already there. For example, that dead apostle, for example, the people in the Department of Policies, but the priest was not there. Finding a seat, he looked at today's breakfast and sighed slightly. Really, toast again. Although the aroma was nice, he really couldn't get used to this English-style breakfast. Bread tasted bland in his mouth, and he didn't like sweet things like jam. Or rather, he had a slight aversion to sweets. Snacks were okay, but he disliked sweets in regular meals. When eating, he preferred salty and spicy flavors the most. Looking at the breakfast placed in front of him, Kazuya couldn't help but say to the attendant, "Isn't there anything else? It's not just toast." "Yes, today, it's only toast. But if you don't like it, we can ask the kitchen to prepare some fried eggs, sausages, and the like." "Alright, I got it." Kazuya waved his hand. "This is fine." "Well, forget it. Just continue like this. After all, there are only a few days left, so endure it a little longer." Comforting himself in his heart, Kazuya ate a few bites of toast and then turned his gaze to the middle of the carriage. There was a transparent cylindrical container with a bunch of eyeballs floating inside, immersed in a solution. Mystic eyes. Undoubtedly, those were mystic eyes. 188 mystic eyes. Gradually, most people also gathered in this dining car, and even those who had finished eating did not leave. Their attention shifted to the mystic eyes on the dining car. Even the priest, who had just arrived not long ago, was no exception. "This is noble color, a cursed mystic eye," said the woman with a belt around her eyes, the auctioneer Leandra. "I believe you all know that this mystic eye curses the observer's field of view. After being cursed, one would fall into disasters such as illness, leading to death. In magical confrontations, it plays a significant role. To resist such a mystic eye, even magus have to use certain tools or resort to magecraft. If in good condition, the magic circuit quality within the eye is top-notch, with no control issues. The previous owner, due to old age, entrusted us to auction this mystic eye. For detailed information and estimates, please refer to the catalog in your hands." Among the mystic eyes being auctioned today, 2 are scheduled for display, and 2 to 4 will be displayed tomorrow. Please take note. Kazuya and others looked at the reading catalog in their hands, which contained introductions and starting prices for 2 mystic eyes. The first one was the Mystic Eyes of Curse, with a starting price of $10,000. And the name of the second mystic eye was. Next is the second one, the Mystic Eyes of Domination, located in the Golden tier. Leandra continued, "Just like its name implies, it forcefully makes the surrounding lives follow the commands issued by its possessor. This is not limited to humans, even simple animals can obey. However, correspondingly, it absorbs a significant amount of life force from the possessor and can activate independently. Its possessor was drained of life force by this mystic eye last year and died." Kazuya saw the starting price in the catalog, $50,000. There were murmurs and sighs in the carriage. Everyone marveled at the scale of the Mystic Eyes auction on the Mystic Eye collection train. Including Kazuya. This mystic eye made him feel quite intrigued. A mystic eye of domination, it would be useful in daily life and more. And he didn't need to worry about his life force since the little source he possessed, his life energy, was several times stronger than an average person's. The only concern was the lack of control. Activation without permission. To him, this mystic eye seemed like the Geass of the protagonist in Code Geass, forcibly making others follow commands, and it could go out of control. The uncontrolled Geass caused a great tragedy in Code Geass, and he didn't want such a thing to happen to him. In other words, even if this mystic eye was excellent, he wouldn't want it if it couldn't be controlled. Moreover, this was only the golden tier for now. Tomorrow, there might be mystic eyes of jewel grade appearing. Clock Tower. Here, there was an underground training ground surrounded by countless iron blocks, scattered neatly on the ground as if they were cut by something. And, the next scene clearly explained the reason for this situation. Something transparent and invisible illuminated a 1 cubic meter iron block in an instant. Then, a person walked over. The person who walked over was a girl. Wearing a colorful tailcoat, she held a short whip in her hand. She lightly waved the whip towards the iron block in front of her. The next moment, this intact iron block scattered evenly around, and if someone were bored enough to count, they would find exactly 1,000 pieces. Moreover, there was almost no difference in size or weight. Mavis, what is it? The girl said, turning around and saying, repair. The shattered iron blocks instantly gathered together, restoring their complete appearance. Yes, Lady Bartholomew. In the rest Aka nearby, a mystic code with a still beating heart emitted such a voice. The owner of the voice was none other than Mavis Clara, who was inside the Mystic Eye Collection train. The power source used by this mystic code was that heart. A high-ranking dead Aposite's heart. In other ordinary magical worlds, it was close to the level of a 17th generation dead. Aposite. That thing was still alive, and that heart, it was her spoils of war. It didn't need anything else. Just that heart was enough to support a large-scale barrier. However, in her view, this thing only barely qualified as the power source for her communicator. Kurokawa Kazuya has agreed to enter the clock tower. Mavis' voice came from inside. All right, I know. Anything else? No. Then inform me of any matters. Yes. With that, the heart next to the mystic code stopped beating, and the communication was completely cut off. Kurokawa Kazuya, sitting in a chair, taking a sip of water, Bartholomew Lorelei picked up a book beside her, and you could tell just by looking at the cover. It was a manga called FSN. Did the Holy Grail War end after the 5th? Oh, right, the 4th has just ended. I didn't expect that, relying on the East Shalomage craft, they could produce such mysterious brilliance. She also wanted to participate in the Holy Grail War, but not in the next one, the one after that. Her goal was not the wish granting or reaching the root. Bartholomew Lorelei didn't need such superficial ways to touch the root. Was it Bartholomew Lorelei, or some other heroic spirits? If she could compete with them, she believed she would gain further growth. So she wanted to participate in the Holy Grail War. She had the confidence that even facing those ancient heroic spirits, she wouldn't lose, not for any other reason, simply because her surname was Bartholomew. That was all. And also, such an interesting manga doesn't have a sequel. Bartholomew Lorelei expressed some dissatisfaction. Well, forget it. Since he's coming to the clock tower, I'll personally persuade him when the time comes. However, her way of persuasion was not so gentle. Physical persuasion. 189 Mystic Eye level, Rainbow. The Mystic Eye Collection train continued its relentless journey forward. The remaining Mystic Eyes were subsequently displayed one after another. They were the Noble Color, Mystic Eye of Petrification, the Golden, Mystic Eye of Illusion, and the Jewel, Mystic Eye of Darkness. The first Mystic Eye, as the name suggests, could petrify things seen literally. The second Mystic Eye, in simple terms, was an illusion-type Mystic Eye, but it was much more convenient to use. The third Mystic EYC, also the highest level Mystic Eye offered this time, was the Mystic Eye of Darkness at the Jewel level, with the effect, as the name implies, of darkness. It bestowed darkness upon everything in the field of vision, sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Everything plunged into darkness. Simply put, it could be described as depriving the 5 senses, which suited it perfectly. Complete deprivation. Moreover, since the Mystic Eye was at the Jewel level, most other Mystic Eye's killers were useless against it. However, that was only for the most part. All things had the power to be seen. And Mystic Eye's killer chips could directly block the effects of Mystic Eyes in this aspect. Like Kazuya, who had 2 Mystic Eyes killers. One was glasses, the orthodox choice, used to counter the effects of Mystic Eyes. The other was a lighter, which could effectively reduce the power of being seen. So, as long as you paired the right Mystic Eye's killer to counter, even a jewel-level Mystic Eye could be resisted. However, not everyone would carry such high-level Mystic Eye's killers with them, and even if they did, the effects could be quite potent when unexpected. So, what should I buy next? 3 days had passed. The atmosphere inside the carriage had always been tense, but there had been no real fights. Tonight was the final deadline. The next station would introduce new magus. They would come here to participate in this auction together. It was also auction time. There were a total of 5. Kazuya pushed open the door and walked towards their work area. Is there something, Mr. Kurakawa? The host of the Mystic Eyes collection train asked. It's about to start, right, the auction? Kazuya did not directly answer but continued to ask. Yes, it's scheduled to start in about an hour. If you win an eye in the auction, we can proceed with the transplantation immediately. All right, that's not a problem. But I'm more curious about something else. Can a person have 2 different Mystic Eyes at the same time? After all, you see, there are 2 eye sockets. Leandro remained silent for a few seconds and then said, in the past, indeed, there were people who did what you mentioned. After all, the Mystic Eyes has an independent magic circuits inside, so if one has the determination to abandon one eye, there is room for improvement. In the past, someone did this and naturally succeeded, but the corresponding level of the Mystic Eyes will decrease. The strengths and weaknesses of having 2 eyes with different effects and 1 eye with an effect can easily be compared. I see. So, it's feasible. Then, 1 eye is a golden level Mystic Eyes, and the other is a jewel level. Leandra's expression remained unchanged, perhaps because the glasses were wrapped with a belt, or perhaps, like all the staff encountered so far, she was more like a doll than a person. Her expression had never changed. There was one thing she didn't mention. That is, she was indeed the type that Kazuya mentioned. However, both of her eyes were jewel-level Mystic Eyes. One was used as a Mystic Eye for searching other Mystic Eyes, or you could say, an artificial Mystic Eye. Even if it was a rainbow-level Mystic Eye, she could still judge it with her own eyes. The other one was a natural Mystic Eyes, the Mystic Eyes of Confinement. Find the Mystic Eyes, then bring it back. That was her ability. Feasible. Since the guest is so confident, why not try our other hidden service? Oh, what is it? Kazuya squinted slightly. As mentioned before, Mystic Eyes have room for improvement, especially with our technology at the Mystic Eyes collection train. By abandoning 1 eye with determination, one can make a single eye perform at 1.5 times the effectiveness. Kazuya understood. If the effectiveness of a single Mystic Eye was 1, and the effect of a pair of Mystic Eyes was 2, then by this calculation, as long as one destroyed the other eye, with a certain special technique, even a single Mystic Eye could perform at 1.5 times the effectiveness. Very well. Kazuya nodded in satisfaction. I understand. Then, before leaving, let me ask one last thing. Do you have the rainbow Mystic Eye here? No comment. Leandra directly replied. However, the eyes of Kazuya had already reached it. Through his own substitute, he had seen her soul, and when he asked about it, her soul had said, yes. In this Mystic Eye collection train, there truly existed the highest level that most, even some lords of the clock tower, considered non-existent the rainbow Mystic Eye. Here, it truly existed. If one wanted to talk about something that could rival the combat power of heroic spirits in the real world, then, without a doubt, the rainbow Mystic Eye was among them. Just by possessing this Mystic Eye, claiming to have combat power comparable to heroic spirits, no, it should be said that even surpassing heroic spirits wouldn't be an exaggeration. It seemed like he had to. Don't be like this, okay. Let me guess. How many pairs of rainbow-level Mystic Eyes do you have here? 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs. Are there any damaged ones? For example, 1 pair is intact, and the other is broken. Really, can't you show some expression? This way, I can't see. Intact, and the other is broken. Really, can't you show some expression? This way, I can't see anything. Kazuya pretended to sigh, but the information had already been received. When he said, 2 pairs, any damaged ones? And, 1 pair is intact, and the other is broken. Her soul said, yes. No comment. Still, the answer had been obtained. Well, if there's a chance in the future to auction this level of Mystic Eye, remember to send me an invitation. I will definitely offer a price that satisfies you. I understand. Kazuya was slightly surprised, originally intending to leave. He turned back. You don't really have the intention to auction rainbow-level mystic eyes, do you? Yes. No comment. Still, there was no change in her expression. 190. The auction begins. The Mystic Eye collection train had the idea of auctioning rainbow-level mystic eyes. This was beyond his expectations. According to the situation seen through his stand Autumn, the mystic eye they were preparing to auction was the damaged, rainbow, mystic eye. Based on the answers seen through his stand, one eye was intact, while the magic circuits inside the other CYC suffered some degree of damage, but the exact extent was unknown. He didn't continue to inquire, asking might raise suspicions. This stand was his trump card, a very useful one. Mind reading, that ability, he didn't intend to tell anyone. Absolutely no one. So, before she grew suspicious, he needed to end this quickly. Such a significant matter would undoubtedly attract attention, and the trend during the auction might be even more substantial than he anticipated. By then, he must obtain that mystic eye. A rainbow-level mystic CYE. It definitely wasn't something from the present, perhaps it was obtained from 100 years ago or even earlier when the Mystic Eye collection train originated. However, a rainbow-level mystic eye didn't mean invincibility, it could only be said to be very powerful, beyond the scope of humans. But, in this world, going beyond the scope of humans was just a starting point. Currently, he hadn't even reached that starting point. It was still far away. Accompanied by his contemplation, time quickly passed. An hour passed quickly. In the deep quiet of the night, a broadcast echoed inside the train, "Ladies and gentlemen." The voice of the conductor, Rodan, came through the speakers. The Mystic Eye auction is now commencing. Please proceed to the second carriage pandemonium. Having heard the broadcast, Kazuya walked out. Although the jewel he purchased, worth tens of millions of yen, was now half broken. The carriage's size was significantly abnormal. Not to mention the length, the width was twice that of the other carriages. It seemed to have used magical space expansion. Here, it was already another world. Glass tubes filled the walls with eyeballs. Without a doubt, these were all mystic eyes. There were hundreds or even thousands of them. These were the foundation of the Mystic Eye collection train. It existed, even compared to the lengthy history of a country, as the accumulated mystic size gathered over the years. Thank you all for your patience. With this announcement, Kazuya looked around. There were priests, dead apostle, Department of Policies, and the young man named Lerman Noel Seen Carlier, accompanied by various familiars in different forms. These familiars came here to purchase mystic eyes on behalf of the magus behind them. 6 in total. We will be presenting a total of 5 mystic eyes this time. Details on each eye's performance and conditions, the estimated transaction price, and the auction period are all explained in the catalogs you have. Please review them in advance. The conductor continued, probably talking about the currency used for the auction, which was the US dollar, and the currency exchange service provided. However, what interested Kazuya more was, what level were these mystic eyes on the walls? Most likely, all of them were noble color or even higher. Now, the Mystic Eye auction begins. The host, Leandra, solemnly declared. Now presenting the first mystic eye. The host slightly bowed, and another staff member appeared beside her, placing a glass tube on the stage. Inside were a pair of mystic eyes. First is a noble color, Mystic Eye of Cursed. As a noble color, it can be considered the most basic, so the starting price is $1 million US. $1,100,000. $1,200,000. $1,300,000. The familiars shouted their respective prices, and the prices progressed layer by layer. $5 million. Kazuya said decisively. $6 million. Mavis began to raise the bid. $6,500,000. Dead Apostle Colin Kidd squinted slightly. Currently, he was evading pursuit from the church, and if it was a suitable mystic eye, it could provide significant combat power. $10 million. Kazuya once again doubled his previous bid. Hey, isn't that a bit too much? Are you really rich? The young man named Lerman Noel joked and stated his price. $11,100,000. Who knows? Kazuya smiled. I'm quite curious. How much are you willing to insist on this mystic eye? Above 11,100,000. Over 13 million. Or perhaps, over 15 million. Personally, I feel like around 13 million would be the limit. He wasn't randomly bidding. The transaction price for the Noble Color Mystic Eye in the El Meloy 2 case files was 10 million. So, his initial target was 10 million. Later, if someone exceeded that price, he would feign interest, inquire about their psychological endurance, and then, use his stand to falsely assess it, to see exactly what that limit was, and then bid exactly above that price. For example, like this. Well then, I'll bid $13 million. Well then, I'll bid $13 million. Sure enough, no one followed this time. What a lost. Lehrman sighed. Indeed, Mr. Kurakawa, you're quite wealthy. Average, I guess. After all, I have to enter the clock tower later, so I need to prepare myself. Lehrman's eyes slightly narrowed. Enter the clock tower. Yes, that's right, at the invitation of Lady Bartholomew. Mavis pushed up her glasses slightly and looked at Kazuya. Indeed, a well-thought-out plan. Trying to make others fear by relying on the banner of Bartholomew. Indeed, the atmosphere quieted down for a moment, and Lehrman also smiled wryly. Congratulations then. The host struck the gavel, and the hemimeter fell. All of this indicated that Kazuya had obtained the Mystic Eye of Cursed. Next is the Mystic Eye of Petrification. Like the previous one, it is also noble color, starting at $1,200,000. Then, simply, following the same script as last time, Kazuya obtained this Mystic Eye for a lower price, $12 million. Next is the Mystic Eye of Strengthening. Firstly, I would like to reiterate here, please confirm the restrictions and conditions in the catalog in advance. The starting price for this Mystic Eye is $8 million. Among the familiars, exclamations were heard. Harsh and unpleasant. Now, let the auction begin. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.